partisan opposition to something like the Marketplace Fairness Act. And after this, I'll hand it off to my colleague Pete Sepp from the National Taxpayers Union, who will walk through some of the individual questions and how we ask them and why. But the kind of broad takeaway is that across ideological identifications, different age groups, we even asked about frequent versus infrequent online shoppers. We wanted to see, is this a phenomenon just of people who use the internet not liking internet sales taxes, and people who don't really care. And so you see that Ohioans of all political stripes, majorities count themselves in opposition to this. So I think that sends a pretty clear signal that the way the debate has sort of played out in Washington, the way that the debate has played out here on the state level in Columbus and other states, has been this sort of give and take. It's not clear to people where the consensus is. And yet, when you ask real Ohioans about it, there does seem to be a clear consensus. And I think that those hold up over these several different questions. So just the next slide for me. So this is the kind of the top line question, I guess you could say. And the language that we use is there up at the top, and mimics the language that we used when we asked on the national poll last year, where we got numbers that basically matched up with Gallup. So I'd like to think that this is sort of the neutral take on it. And you can see the numbers are 56% opposed versus 31% in favor. And the demographic breakdowns on the right side there are very interesting. You have a nearly 40-point margin among Republicans. I mean, not at all controversial among Republicans. You have nearly a 30-point margin there among independents, double-digit margins even among Democrats. The same holds true along the ideological identifiers, conservative, moderate, and liberal. I mentioned the frequent online shopper and infrequent online shopper. You can see that those numbers are different just by a few points. So not a major difference there, which to me indicates that people understand what the kind of underlying questions and issues are here. That it's not just a sort of self-interested opposition to something they think is going to cost them more money. You can see the age breakdowns, and again, the numbers are pretty similar across the board for age breakdowns, which is something that's relatively rare. One would expect that older consumers who are maybe less internet savvy, who don't use the internet as much, would have a different opinion on this. The last thing that I would point out before handing it off to Pete to cover the rest of the questions is the intensity numbers. So if you see there, 34% of people count themselves as strongly opposed to this sort of internet sales tax scheme, as opposed to just 11% who say they strongly favor. So you have that 3-to-1 margin in intensity, which indicates that this is a very powerful issue for any politician, right, left, upside down, or sideways, to take up. And I think that it's one of those rare issues where you can have support across the board, which there aren't a whole lot of those these days. So with that, I'm going to